What we're starting with here is system components and troubleshooting with technology, motherboard troubleshooting, memory, BIOS, UEFI, processors. Now we're getting into the hardware and how do we best troubleshoot it. So let's walk through these technical questions. So first of all, why is understanding the boot process so important? So when we walk through the post, BIOS, UEFI, device detection process, and OS handoff at a high level, we truly understand what the processing experience of the computer is like upon startup. So we're going to be understanding that process better is essential. It's a really important skill. It's basically going to teach you the same experience as if you're starting up a car. What has to happen when a car starts? The same thing with a computer. So walking through that process is going to be essential. So we're going to work on that. And also remembering that startup issues, if there is an issue with startup, it can be narrowed down by better understanding the process at startup with the BIOS. And if there's a failure, often the computer has indicators that help you with the failure, and you can also troubleshoot it more effectively if you understand what happens with a potential failure at startup. So with comes that natural process of sequential thinking, which is really helpful to help you diagnose troubleshooting issues at the start of a computer process. So when a computer is booted on, if you hear certain things happening or you don't hear certain things happening, you're going to be able to diagnose what that potential issue is at startup. So as we walk through the boot process, which is part of this section of Chapter 4 of CompTIA A, understanding that boot process is going to help you understand the function of the computer from a very core level. So that makes it incredibly important. So the next question, what common hardware problems do technicians see in real workplaces? So what types of common hardware problems do technicians see in real workplaces? So for example, we're going to see issues like bad RAM, where the RAM needs to be replaced, failed power supplies, which actually is a pretty simple item to troubleshoot once you get it narrowed down to that being the issue. Often it's just changing out the power supply. Overheating, which is another common issue with laptops, Chromebooks, PCs in some cases, and it helps you better understand how items are cooled and what issues kind of contribute to overheating. What happens when some pins are bent, when connections are broken, and BIOS misconfiguration. So if there's an issue in BIOS, what's happening and how can we use it to troubleshoot a scenario? And often symptoms do overlap when you are troubleshooting. So the more you understand the difference between issues that might happen with BIOS versus RAM or power, understanding the difference in those situations is going to help you narrow down problems when they come up. So just as we talked about with the troubleshooting methodology, you're going to need a process to understand that hardware issue at its core level and have a process that's tied to it. So the more you understand about the processes, the better you're going to be able to troubleshoot. So the next question is, what mindset helps technicians solve problems faster? So once again, what mindset helps technicians troubleshoot faster? So first of all, being calm is essential. A logical isolation of the issue so that you can actually think about the steps you need to understand, and also understanding the variables. So with any troubleshooting methodology, of course, you're going to see issues. You're going to want to try to understand what step in the process of troubleshooting you need to step in and what might be the variables, what might be things that are different with one scenario than another. And that's actually really super important. Variables, taking and understanding all the variables will take time and experience with learning more troubleshooting, but it comes with more practice. So I do want to encourage you to verify, of course, the symptoms, right? So if you see a certain symptoms, maybe it's 2 beeps versus 1 beep, or it's just feeling a part of the computer and being like, that's really warm. Let me check the battery and see if something's overheating. What are those symptoms that you're looking for? Test assumption. So if your assumption is if something's supposed to boot faster or happen faster, you're supposed to see a specific light, maybe see if there's something wrong with the device. If you have an assumption or an understanding of something, you might want to test it and see if it's causing an issue. And keeping notes is incredibly important. I would say it's really important, especially when you're starting out, to keep troubleshooting and technology notes, because it helps you think through the process a little bit and also helps you understand what types of hardware are you working on and what are the indicators. Over time, you're going to have your own natural understandings of technology as you work with more devices and more software. Those things are going to come in time, but ultimately those notes, or those mental notes as well, are going to help you solve problems in the future. So all of that information, your process of gathering information, solving a problem, every time you're successful or you learn something, it's going to get lodged in the back of your brain and you're going to be able to use it in the future. So it's always good to take notes if you can always look back, and that's another way of seeing the problems that you fixed. And also, say you have a massive notebook of items that you've fixed over time, and then you want to update your resume. Now you have a notebook, a list of all sorts of items that you've worked on. It's very easy to translate a list like that into resume items. So that's a food for thought over time. So essentially, those are 3 questions that are all around the boot process, all around common hardware problems, and what types of mindsets important in order to troubleshoot issues related to host, BIOS, UEFI, and the OS beginning to boot on a device. So obviously it does involve sequence thinking, understanding how potential symptoms and issues potentially overlap. So if you see something, it might be connected to something else, or you might need to completely understand why you're getting one symptom over another. And if you're being calm and understanding the steps and potential variables of any situation, that's going to help you solve a problem better. And you're going to learn a little bit more because there's always going to be something else you learn. All right. So a couple quick career coaching questions that I've added for this section. How do employers evaluate troubleshooting ability in interviews? So how do employers evaluate troubleshooting abilities in interviews? And I've noticed that this has been done in a lot of different ways, whether it's a hands-on activity or if it's a specific type of scenario-based question. These can come up in interview situations. So you want to try to do your best to not only understand maybe the hardware and software used in the environment in which you're interviewing, but also understand what types of scenarios might come up in that type of environment as well. So those scenario-based questions are often used to help show the employer, do you have a process for solving a problem? That's where the troubleshooting methodology can come in very handy. Also, are you thinking about the conditions of the workplace in which you're being interviewed in? And so it's always important to have a couple scenario-based questions which potentially relate to the workplace you're applying for, if you can get some of that knowledge ahead of time, which can be super helpful. And that's a much different approach, of course, than just pure memorization, right? If you go in and you're thinking, if I just memorize questions related to questions that I think will occur during the interview, you're going to get caught off guard. You're probably much better preparing for scenario-based questions. What happens if the Wi-Fi goes down on this office floor with the supervisor? What is the best chain of command for communicating that issue? And what are the next best steps to solve that issue? Questions like that can be extremely helpful to help you think through processes, particularly in certain types of work environments. So also that whole process of note-taking as you solve problems, understanding your own process is going to help you when other people give you challenges to define a path for creating a new solution. So when you practice scenario-based questions, you're also going to be able to practice the identify, test, verify, and document process. And a course like the CompTIA A course is also going to help you practice that as well, because some of these questions can be very scenario-based and be similar to employment-style questions. So it's very important that you practice these types of questions, think about the environment which you're applying for, and think about how can you really do well in those so that you interview well in the long term. Why is problem solving one of the most marketable IT skills? So why is problem solving one of the most marketable IT skills? Very good question. So problem solving at its heart is the key to IT. And I would say one of the most marketable parts of that skill is the fact that problems are always coming. There's always a new problem. There's always something surprising happening with a new piece of software. And it's important that if you have a solid troubleshooting process that helps you problem solve in the workplace, you're going to be more marketable. you're going to be able to diagnose issues faster. You're going to be able to understand them and be able to explain them well to others. So as a marketable skill, some people definitely can do that better than other people. And the people who can do it best are the ones who practice it and understand it the most, and also understand the hardware and the software the most, and also understand potential variables to issues with those hardware and software. So connecting troubleshooting to support, and how do you provide the best support possible on a first tier, maybe help desk scenario, to also when you escalate an issue up the chain for more network support and understanding the network systems that might be above an entry-level role. And with systems, cloud, and cybersecurity roles, they're all connected. So as you learn about more systems, maybe you start at an entry-level help desk position, but what's going to happen is you may have to escalate a ticket to someone who's more involved on the cloud side, more involved with cybersecurity threats. You're going to learn by escalating those tickets, what types of tickets go to those people, what maybe needs to be known before you escalate those tickets. So working in these environments where you're going to be troubleshooting items, and then maybe even if you're passing them off to those above you, is going to help teach you about other roles and how do you get involved with those other roles down the line as you develop more experience. And as I was talking about platforms changing, that structured process of troubleshooting a platform is always going to pay itself back to you. And you're going to find that platforms and software change all the time. So your mindset needs to be flexible, adaptable, ready to change and shift. And that's what makes it the most marketable. So having that ability and hunger to learn why something's happening is incredibly valuable. So ultimately, what we're going to do by the end of this section of the course is I'm going to come back to you at the end of tonight, and I'm going to ask you, what is one idea from system components and troubleshooting that you could explain to someone else? What is something from systems and troubleshooting that you feel like you could explain to someone else if they were to ask you a question about it? And how would it help you in a real IT role? So what place does this potentially happen in the real workplace? So let's go ahead and get started. So those are just some questions to think about.